bonjour, or whatever Bertrand would normally say. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another digital download. It's a little bit different this week.
For the next 3 weeks?
For the next 3 weeks, yeah. So lots of people in our team are away on holiday. Lots of people out there are away on holiday as well. So we thought we would kind of just have a chat about some of the things that we've learned with respect to how to develop an effective social selling and indeed social media presence on the different platforms, and what are the key elements, and what are the things that we see people consistently getting wrong or failing to understand. So if you're watching this live, please do pitch in the comments, because
we'll take questions.
Yeah, and that will steer the direction of this. Well, the fact you're in here means you already know who we are, so we don't need to bother introducing ourselves. But during this month, we thought we would begin by doing 3 shows on 3 key elements of being effective on social media, and what we have learned in terms of things that work and don't, and where typically people that we work with fall down when they're trying to do this. Hi, Mark.
Nice shirt. We're hoping for some jokes, Mark.
Yeah, nice shirts, but we are sadly, you are the master and we are but the apprentice in this respect. So the 3 elements are personal brand, your profile, how you look and how you present yourself, and how that has to be effective. And I think that this is the whole concept of social is a really interesting one, because we're all very wedded to how we think we need to present ourselves and what we think people will think when they look at us. And actually the reality is that if you peel back the ego and the preconceptions, you can very easily work out what your audience actually want and what they don't want. In as much as if you do something a particular way and people comment on it and start to engage with it, then it's working. And if they ignore it, then it isn't. So it's a very binary thing in our experience. So the first one this week, we're going to be talking about personal brand, what you need to know, what you need to understand, where typically people make mistakes and preconceptions that they have. Next week, we're going to be talking about network and the importance of building a strong network. And that's another key point. Clearly, your network is your audience, and if you're not connecting to or connected to the people that you want to be influencing, unless you're extremely lucky, you're never going to have a conversation with them. And then lastly, the next week, the 3rd week, we're going to be talking about content. And why content is so important, and how you can craft a content strategy that hopefully will engage your audience and make you look like you're attractive and interesting and knowledgeable and all of those things that you need to be for somebody to like you and consume your content and believe what you say. But also how you can start to become much more consistent with developing that content. So today, personal brand.
Can I just say, just to set a position on this, what we're doing when we say social selling, we're not talking about people that send you a spam message, connect with me and then say, here's a list of our products and services. As far as we're concerned, that's spam. And I report all those people to LinkedIn for harassment. And because that's what they actually told me to do. And so that's not social selling, and that's not what we're advocating. I think sometimes people think, again, sending emails. We've never sent emails. This isn't about sending emails. Again, that's kind of cold calling on a social network. So our definition of social selling is using your presence and behavior on social media to build influence, make connections, grow relationships and trust, which leads to conversation and commercial interaction.
Perfect. I think that one of the things that's really interesting, because we've discussed this internally, that social selling is a dreadful name for what it is that we do, because actually any social network is not a platform for selling over. It's a platform for developing relationships and having conversations with people. And if you're selling a product which is complex and strategic and high value and big and transformational and all of those things, you can only sell that by talking to somebody. So what we're trying to do is create an environment where you can have lots of conversations with the people that ultimately you being windswept and interesting is definitely something I aspire to. Yeah, well, we've all got that kind of hair issue, haven't we, with it blowing in the wind? Yeah, but I think that one of the things that's really interesting about this is that, I think that developing a social presence and developing these relationships is really easily understood by analogy with dating. When you first meet somebody, you go on a blind date with somebody, you sit down for dinner, and then you propose to them. You get your ring out and you go, "Here you go. Would you like to marry me?" Or you may marry them, but there's probably going to be a lot of steps between that
He's
first.
being sarcastic that
Yeah,
you do it on the first date, by the way,
yeah,
for any of those that don't understand Adam's sense of humour.
yeah. But you may end up marrying them, but probably asking at the first date is not the time to do that to maximise the success. And I think that one of the challenges that people face is that they seem to think that because they're honest and they speak the truth, when they tell somebody something which is true, that person will automatically believe them. So I'm really good at helping you with your financial investments. Now, I may be the best financial advisor in the world, but until you know me and until you trust me, those are just words. So to build that relationship, to build that interaction, to build that trust may take, yeah, absolutely right. In the same way, well, we like to think of it not so much as selling, but people buying from us. Over time, we build a relationship with those people, and they want to buy from us because they see us as being the preeminent, most credible, most professional, most able people in the particular space that we're in. And to build that may take time. Of course, you might get lucky. You might send someone a connection request. They look at your profile and they say, "Oh, this is perfect. I'm looking to buy exactly what it is you're selling, and you've just emailed me, or you just connected to me at the right time." That's fantastic, and it does happen. The harder I practice, the luckier I get, and all that.
It's the $1 million in-mail.
Absolutely. If it happens to land at exactly the right time, then you're very lucky. Like if you cold call somebody, if you happen to get through to exactly the person at exactly the time when they have the moment to give you, and let you give your pitch and everything, then you may get lucky. But there's an awful lot of ifs and an awful lot of things that we can't control in that environment.
Also, it's very true. I think, if I was walking down a high street or a mile and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, do you want to buy a pension? I'd tell them to go away because I don't know you, I don't know who you are. And unfortunately, sales, as we know it for the last 40 years, at the end of the day, cold calling is 40-year-old technology. Sending emails is 30-year-old technology. Sales is built on that 30-year-old technology. And of course, what happens is that immediately think social. Therefore, what I do is I do what we've done for the last 40 years, which is I come on and I basically cold call you, which is I tap you on the shoulder and say, "Do you want to buy my email marketing system or whatever it is?" And you will get a small number of people go, "Oh yeah, you've got me in the right place." But in most cases, it's highly unlikely. If you look at the latest research from people like Kerry Cunningham at Sixth Sense, was the fact that people are 70% of the way through the buying process when they actually decide on who they're going to put as their 3 or 5 suppliers. The buyer will have gone out and done research. and done research in a number of ways. And even if you connect to somebody and pitch, they are going to look at your LinkedIn profile. Whatever happens, whether you connect and pitch, whether you sent an email, whether you phone somebody, whether you spam somebody on email, whatever it is, they will look at your LinkedIn profile, and they will then make a decision about what you're like based on your LinkedIn profile. For example, I get spam emails. I'll look them up on LinkedIn and they don't exist. So what? Well, as far as I'm concerned, clearly that person doesn't exist, and I just create the rule, and forever their emails will go into the waste paper basket. So as a buyer, we're looking for social proof. We're looking for social proof, and this is the thing that, because everyone thinks it's about me. I'm really good at sales because I'm good at creating relationships or whatever it is. As a buyer, I don't give a shit. What I'm looking for is social proof. Social proof that you understand my industry. Social proof that you understand who we are as a business. Social proof that you're an individual. Because if you've got a banner of a company and I'm a sales, and your title is a sales manager and everything else is about a company, all you're going to try and do is sell me something. I know the moment I engage with you, you're just going to try and sell me your shit. You don't care about my business. You don't care about my business issues. So pretty much 100%, pretty much everybody on social media is making this mistake. They're treating LinkedIn as a sales network, not a social network. And I told you this story the other day. I had someone come to me and they said, they connected to me and I just ignored. And for some reason or other, we ended up having a conversation. And she said, "Oh, yes, I know all about social selling. I worked for LinkedIn for 4 years. I was selling Sales Navigator." I said, "Oh, yeah, what's your take on social selling?" She said, "Oh, it's all about the people. Sales is all about people." So I said, "So why do you have AWS as your banner and your title pretty much says, as soon as I connect to you, I'm going to pitch to you? Why have you done that?" She said, "Maybe I need to have a rethink. Shall I come back?" I said, "Yeah, maybe you might want to."
Yeah, and there are so many of these paradoxes, and I think so. Tim and I were visiting one of our friends who's Andy Huff, who's the founder of the Institute of Professional Sales Professionals. Sorry, and we were talking about what are people's drivers for buying things, and he said that one of his PhD students, Pantaj, has done some research for quite a sizable. I think it was 1,000 different buyers that they spoke to, and they said that 4 of the non-negotiables when you're buying something are academic qualification, commitment to continuous development, ethics alignment, and certifications and qualifications that are relevant to the particular area in which they operate. And I see that makes perfect sense. You're not going to go to an accountant that hasn't got an accountancy qualification. You're not going to go to a doctor that isn't a consultant or a surgeon in their specific area. You're not going to go to a plumber that doesn't have all of the plumbing accreditations and things that they need. And you want to see not only that they've studied these things 20 years ago, but they're keeping up with the latest trends and developments in their industry and their specialist field. And that absolutely is crucial for you to get the business. You have to look like you're credible. You have to look like you're knowledgeable. You have to look like you're professional. But the challenge that we all face on LinkedIn or on any social network is that those are not the differentiator. Those are the table stakes. Every single doctor has got their doctor's qualification. Every single plumber has got their plumber's qualification. And those things are buried down at the bottom of your profile, not at the top of your profile. That's one of the non-negotiable areas, and yet it's right at the bottom of your profile. Another non-negotiable area is social proof. Have lots of people recommended you and said, "I've worked with Tim Hughes. He's absolutely fantastic, and I would absolutely recommend him to everybody in my network." Because if you've got that on your profile and it's at the bottom of your profile, you're relying on being interesting enough that people will read your profile down to that particular point. And one of the things that we've always said is that if you think about your profile in kind of three key areas, you've got the bit at the top, the nice image, the headline, the thing that describes who you are rather than what you do. So not sales manager at company X, but interesting person who likes doing whatever it is they like doing. Hopefully you've piqued people's interest enough that they'll read on to the next section. And again, the next section should not be something that says responsible for running a company possibly I've never heard of, or passionate about helping people achieve the best possible CRM implementation in the company, because let's be honest, nobody's really passionate about that. But that should tell a story enough that people want to read on and discover more about you. And only if you can capture their interest and maintain their interest is there a chance that they'll read through your profile. They'll get to know you enough that when you start to deliver these things that are table stakes, they'll believe that those things are actually true, and they'll believe that you're the kind of person that they would not only will be able to help them, but will be able to be somebody they will like working with.
So Mark Carson has basically said, is it okay to go straight with a sales pitch if it's time bound? E.g., a company states they're working on a job and you have something that you think you can help them with. For me, I would, because I'm a salesman. But I would actually take a step back from that. Is that if you have all of the social proof on your LinkedIn profile, if you're connected to the people you've got, in effect, your digital territory, and you're putting out content which is in effect explaining what you do, in effect explaining what you do, explaining how you help the industry, how you help their business, etc., etc. You should, in fact, if you're doing that on a day, I put out content on a daily basis. You should actually be the natural choice. As part of their research and as part of their due diligence of doing that, you should have basically come up every day, and they'll say, "I'll give Mark a call."
But I think that when so yes, let's assume for a moment that somebody says that their office has just burned down. You can be pretty confident that they're going to want some short-term office space, some new computer equipment, and a builder. Those may well be some of the things that post about their office having burnt down triggers in you as an opportunity. So absolutely, sending them a message that says, yes, I can help you with this particular issue that it appears that you might have. If you'd love to talk about it, or you'd like to talk about it, we'd love to hear from you. That's great. However, the first port of call will be them looking at your profile. And if your profile doesn't make them realize that you're credible, you're professional, loads of people have worked with you, so there appears to be very little risk in engaging you to do whatever it is that you're doing. And most importantly, that selling to the heart as well as the head. Do you look like you're somebody that I like? Somebody that has a sense of humor, somebody that I find quite entertaining, somebody that shares similar interests to me. So I don't think I've ever met Mark face to face, but I know he wears funky shirts, and I know he's got a great sense of humor because of the interactions we've had in the social space, and because of looking at his profile will tell me that stuff.
Yeah.
So that means that he's much more likely to get my business in that area, that kind of crisis area, than somebody that has just got a load of facts on their profile and it's really dull, and I don't feel that I've got a sense of the person. So the importance of the profile, whether or not you're running up to somebody and going, ta-da, here I am, or whether or not you have a presence there, and your connections and your content is pushing you out to an ever wider audience, and they're still, whatever the route, they're still going to come back and look at your profile. And as we always say, they are going to jump to conclusions about you. The job of your profile is to help them to jump to the conclusion that you want. So yes, you need to be professional, but everybody says I'm professional, because nobody ever writes, I'm a
I'm
very unprofessional, inexperienced consultant who doesn't help his clients achieve their objective. No one ever says that. Everyone says they're brilliant. So you have to do something more than just put words down. You have to show people. And one of the ways that you can do that is that you can share some of your expertise with people on your profile. Because, you know, the challenge is that even with testimonials, and we all go to websites and it says, these are the best pair of training shoes that I've ever owned, says Mr. J. Smith from Peterborough. It's like, this could be a real person, or it could be somebody that they've made up. So there's always an element of risk in these things. But if you start to share with me your expertise, so here are 3 things that I've learned about this particular topic in the last year, which may be relevant to people that are currently going through this thing. That's incredibly helpful to people.
So, for example, Mark, just to look at the content piece, generally when people write content, they're writing for maybe a wide audience. But we've actually written for when we know we're going to publish something. It may be one to many, it won't maybe one to few. But there was one situation where we wanted to get a meeting with a particular company, where we wrote an article just to get a meeting with one individual. So what you may do before you reach out, one of the things that you might want to do is actually make sure that your profile makes you look like a human being and an individual and someone who can help. But you may actually write an article that says, these are the 3 things. When your office burns down, these are the 3 things that you need to think about straight away. And so when you contact them and they go, who's this joker that's just basically trying to jump in our grave? They look back and go, oh, look, yeah. And he looks like a human being. And there's that article. And, oh, I never thought about number 2. And therefore, you're actually showing that you have that social proof. That's just one of the things that you could think about. But sorry, let's go back to our profile.
No, I think that's a really good point. And I think that, you know, one of the mistakes that we all make is that we find ourselves in a situation, and let's assume you're going to talk to a company, and the company looks at your profile, and then the company says, yeah, I really like you, but I'm not sure you have enough relevant experience in our industry. And that may well be a situation that we've all faced. And the interesting thing about that is that particular problem could have been headed off at the pass by the 3 weeks before we were having the meeting with the company. We published loads of content about their particular industry. So then when we sat down with them and they looked at our profile, they'd say, oh, wow, you know loads of stuff and you've done loads of work in our industry. And I think that one of the things that because your profile is a very dynamic thing, you've got, you know, your contact details, you've got your picture, you've got your headline, you've got your about section, you've got your job history, all of which doesn't have to be, may be fairly static. And then you've got the last pieces of content that you've written and your featured content, which are there towards the top of your profile normally. And those give you an opportunity to have some very dynamic stuff. So this quarter, I'm targeting pharmaceutical companies, say. So if I write loads and loads and loads and loads of content about pharmaceutical companies, the pharmaceutical industry, challenges they're facing, cross-border policies, health insurance, whatever things may be affecting that industry, or I think may be affecting that industry, that can make me look like I have an interest and I have a passion and I have some knowledge about that. And I think that one of the things that is really interesting, and I know that Mark, for example, you work in a very specific area of commerce, but for many organizations, they may be targeting this sector this month and this sector next month and this sector the month after. And one of the things that we all know is that invariably you're sitting down with a client or a prospect, and one of the questions they're going to ask you is going to be, have you ever worked with a company like ours before? Now, the reality is that it doesn't actually matter. If you're an accountancy practice, whether or not you've worked with an arable farmer as opposed to a livestock farmer is irrelevant. However, the client feels that it is relevant, and your ability to kind of show some expertise and some interest in that field ahead of having the conversation with them may be an incredibly important differentiator between you and your competitors. Yeah, and actually, that, like Tim said, that I think we called it dog whistle marketing, didn't we? Where we'd write a piece of content specifically for a company or an individual or a small group, something that we knew would be the sweet spot of a challenge they were facing at this very moment. But I think, like with all of this stuff, how we dress our profile and how we create content and who we're connecting to needs to be structured to achieve a particular objective. So one of the things we say, and I know that we're not talking about specifically network today, but one of the things that we see is that if you've got a very large territory, connecting to one person in each of 1,000 different accounts this quarter achieves very little, because you're still relying on luck with that individual to get a conversation with the company. Whereas if you were to connect to 100 people in each of 10 companies, you would, at the very worst, be able to cross them off your list of targets by saying there is no deal there, or there's no deal there for 5 years, or they have no budget for this, or they're not a good fit for us, or whatever your qualification process may be. But at least you would have some insights into those organizations. The challenge is that do you know who your ideal customer is? Yeah, it's generally speaking, it's people with a heartbeat. Is a lot of people's view, even though they may not articulate it in quite that way. That's a lot of people's view. Yes, our product is really well suited to men in their 50s, and younger men, and women as well. And it becomes progressively less attractive as you broaden that target list. So one of the key things is that if you understand who you're going after, you can tweak your profile and you can tweak your content to make yourself look particularly relevant, attractive, pertinent, suitable for those players.
It's interesting what Amanda says. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Amanda.
People are more likely to connect to people that have mutual connections, 100%. The research from Kerry Cunningham at Sixth Sense shows that we know that people are now 70% of the way through the buying process before they contact people. But generally what they do is what Kerry calls back channeling, which is that, if you think about your customer sitting in a meeting, they're saying, what we need is a new payroll system. What they'll do is that they'll say, you know the person at Workday, give them a call. And they're not calling the salesperson, they're calling somebody in their network. And the question they're asking isn't, does it do these 5 things? They're asking, what's it like as a company? Because actually working with a company, it's just as important about culture. If you're going to buy a new accounting system, you're probably going to have it for 10, 15, 20 years. So what's it like to deal with the company and work there, and what's the culture like? Just as important as some of the other things. I think it's probably worth mentioning is also, Adam, I think that some people quite often get lost in the fact that we need to be talking about USPs, what our USP and stuff is. And what you've got to remember is that you're, as a salesperson, an expert in what you sell. So are your competitors, but your buyers are not. And your buyers probably cannot tell the difference between the products. I couldn't tell you. I come from a background of selling accounting systems, but there was no difference between Oracle, SAP, PeopleSoft, whatever, and certainly the buyers couldn't tell the difference. Ultimately, what they saw was the culture of the company and the people that were selling to them. All the way through my career, I've sold to people. It's a people to people.
Yeah, people that like you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the same whether it's analog or it's digital. And coming back to the today, which is about your profile, what we're doing when as a buyer, when we're looking at your profile, we're looking to say we're about whether somebody likes you. And don't forget, your LinkedIn profile is up 366 days a year, 24 hours a day. And it needs to be, it needs to be there working hard for you while you're asleep. And, I wake up in the morning and often someone sent me a note saying, can I buy from you? Which is
nice.
prime, isn't it? If I'm asleep and someone wants to buy from me.
Yeah. And I think that your point about not understanding these products that they're buying is absolutely the case. I'm not an expert in insert software here or product here. And of course I'm not, because I'm an expert at injection molding or whatever it is that I do, not an expert in CRM systems, which is what you do. So I'm not a very good judge of whether your CRM system is better than your competitors, but I am quite a good judge of whether or not I like you or not. And that's a really great starting point. Is this somebody that I could spend time with? Is this somebody that I share some interest with? Is this somebody that, and I think one of the great paradoxes that we see with how people construct their profiles and how they share their content is they say, this is a business platform. I shouldn't be sharing personal stuff on here, because they somehow think that people come here to read pitch documents or brochures or download white papers or whatever it is that they come here to do. So that seems to be their belief. However, those very same people who are in sales and say, I haven't got anything interesting to say outside of my work because I work for a big company and it's the brand that people are buying. But if you said to those very same people, do you want half an hour in your client's boardroom or do you want a day in the box at the football match? They say, well, I'll take them to the football match. Okay, why is that? Because you're not actually going to talk about what you do and who you do it for and any of this stuff. Oh, well, because I get to know them. I get to build rapport. We get to build a friendship and a relationship. So my question to everybody would be, well, why would you only do that in a face-to-face environment? Here, you've been given access to, I think at the moment, it's 1.2 billion people on LinkedIn, every one of whom, pretty much every one of whom, checks LinkedIn every week or two, at the very least. Some of them live in LinkedIn like we do and many of our clients do. But at the very least, they're here every couple of weeks. So why on earth would you not want to use this as a platform to be able to start to build relationships with people at scale? As you often say, Tim, I sell stuff, or a lot of my customers are people that play the guitar because I play the guitar. And it's something that we can bond over in the same way that it might be football or sailing or travel or whatever it is that's an interest of yours. And part of what we need to do is we need to make sure that our profile has an element of eye candy to it. There's a load of people that wear suits out there and sell product. So why am I going to double take as you walk past? Well, it's because you're sharing content and your profile is dressed with stuff that differentiates you. You've been on Amateur MasterChef, so there's a picture of you in your whites cooking stuff, and it's not relevant to what you do, but it is interesting. There's a classic car, that's interesting. There's a horse race, that's interesting. Now, these may or may not be things that are a passion that you share, but one thing's for certain, they're a point of differentiation, and that's key, isn't it, in a market where there's 1 billion people.
I think this comment from Andrew Slesser is interesting, which is there a dilemma when creating your personal profile that it is about you and not the company you work for? Though you may promote the company, should the profile be about you, could you have two profiles, one personal and one business? And so the answer to that is it's your profile. It's a person's profile. And one of the things that all of our clients basically, they all start off thinking this is that LinkedIn is about promoting your business. It's not. It's the relationship that you have with your buyers and your prospects is about you. It's exactly the same as it works in the analog world. If you walk up to somebody at a networking party, you'll shake their hand and say, "Hey, how you doing? Have you traveled far? You know, where have you come from? Oh, did you get stuck in the traffic?" We talk about those things. We don't walk up and immediately go, "Here's my brochures, and by the way, we've got 30% off." The other person will get security called, and that's the thing, is the connection that we have is through people.
And the other thing is worth also saying, you go to that event and somebody comes up to you. I mean, last time we went to an Oracle partner event, there were some people that came up to you that sort of ran up and gave you a hug and said, "Tim, I've not seen you for 20 years." And the first bit of the conversation then was, "How are you? Where are you now? What are you doing?" Had nothing to do with the fact that you both used to be at Oracle. Neither of you were at Oracle now. But the fact is that it demonstrated in a very visible, physical way that this is about you and your network, not about the company brand.
So if you think about your LinkedIn profile, it's about it's about you. Now, there is stuff on your LinkedIn profile about what you do. So there's a whole piece about where you're working right now and the whole of your career history. What you need to do is that if you're in a situation where you start pitching, so for example, if you have a banner which is a branded banner, the only assumption that I will have, and I do have this assumption, is anybody who connects to me with a branded banner, I assume you're going to pitch to me the next thing that you're going to do. So what do you think I do? I don't connect to people.
Well, you would seldom be proven wrong.
Yes, and then the next thing is the other thing that the next thing they do is the summary title. And what LinkedIn gurus will tell you to do is that they'll tell you to put what you do in that. Complete, utter self-harm. Because I get loads of people coming to me saying, "I help CEOs with their fitness and their and what they eat. So what do I expect when they connect to me? They're going to pitch to me, so I just ignore that." I get loads of people coming to me saying, "I can be your account. I can help CEOs with their accountancy. So what do I do? Ignore." And so we all as buyers make these. We look at someone's profile and we basically we jump to a conclusion. So your job when you craft your profile, it's really important that you start and it's about you and people, because we know that people buy people. It's a social network. It's not a sales network. But there is room on your profile as you go through what you do to basically talk about your company. Now, and that's the process that you need to go through in terms of working through. You build the connection first. You don't pitch first.
Yeah, and I know it's a much overused word. Authenticity is crucial. So I was talking to a client of ours the other day, and this person has been at the company that they're at for about a decade. So one can assume that they're reasonably happy there, and that it's a nice company, and it is a really nice company. That they're reasonably happy there. They've been promoted, so it's not like they've not had career development. So they're very, very settled in there. Now, they didn't write this on their profile, but typically in that situation, people would, and it's a software, like a business intelligence company, and typically people would write passionate about business intelligence because they've been there for 10 years and it's something that matters to them. It's their career. And I said to this person, I would wager that if you won the lottery tomorrow, you would not be coming into work on Monday morning. And they said, absolutely right. Okay, so you're not actually passionate about it. It's your job. By contrast, this person is on the board of an animal rescue charity. So I said to them, I bet if you won the lottery tomorrow, you would still be on the... She said, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, that tells you what you're really passionate about and what you're not really passionate about. And I think that words like passionate about, helping organizations achieve that, these are much overused phrases. And what you need to do is you need to reach inside yourself and think about, what is it that defines you? That's the story that you've got to tell. And that's the only USP you have. 25 years helping businesses implement accountancy systems. And then Tim rocks up and he says, 30 years of helping businesses implement. It's like, okay, well, you're going to choose him because he's got 5 years more on the clock than I have. And this idea that will impress people. It's like, founded in 1971 is not impressive. Founded in 1463 is impressive, but the fact that your company's 50 years old means nothing.
Mark's put up I think Mark's gone through, skip the relationship part and go straight to the pitch, because nothing says trust me like a stranger. Exactly.
That's beautiful. In fact, I think I'm going to use that one myself. Nothing says trust me like a stranger with a slide deck. No, it's absolutely right, isn't it? And this idea that me simply saying words about how good I am at my job is going to engender any kind of trust and desire in the buyer is delusional. And I think one of the things that I see time and again is that somehow we all think that we are not a good metaphor for how our customer behaves. So, I remember years ago now, we were in a pitch situation, and well, I say pitch, we were talking to a sales leader, and their mobile rang, and they went, okay, we'll send that to voicemail because I've no idea who that is. And having immediately done that, they told us how important it was to be cold calling people, and that's what they're going to get their team to do more of. And the kind of the irony of that, I don't take cold calls because I'm too busy, but all of my clients can take cold calls because my product's really exciting, is a delusional standpoint to take. And we all know how we behave. It's like, you've got this new sales scheduling tool, which says that, you send an email on the Monday and a phone call on a Tuesday, and the LinkedIn request on a Wednesday, and another email on a Thursday, and then another phone call on a Friday. And we know when we are the recipient of that, what we do is we just block that person on every channel. So it's not like they're just blocked on email or just they're blocked on every channel. And yet we still somehow think that we're different when we do that. And breaking this kind of relationship and recognizing that and the metaphor you said about the shop, you've got a beautiful shop. You need to put lovely things in the window to attract people to spend some time in the shop, looking in the window and coming in to experience a little bit more of that.
Thanks, Andrew. I think, yes, I think that a lot of people think that actually working on your LinkedIn profile is hard work, and it is, but it's a one-off cost. It's an investment that you're making in yourself. And if you can set yourself, either half a day or a day, once you've done it, you've done it. But you'll see a massive difference in the way that people treat you on and social. And again, nobody's interested. People quite often say, I'm really good at making relationships. Are you? I don't really care. As a buyer, I've got a problem. I'm not bothered whether you can make relationships or not. It's about how are you going to fix the problem, or are you going to fix the problem and basically disappear into the sunset? I think there's a big difference, and pretty much everybody's profile on LinkedIn is about them and not about their buyer and their customer.
Yeah, and that I'm really good at building relationships. Actually, you should never ever say that. You should demonstrate that by building a relationship with people. Because it's like saying, you should go on a date with me, and to prove it, here's a list of all the people I've dated. It's like the least attractive thing you can possibly do. So it absolutely is about laying out your stall as you want to be perceived. Do you want to look like you're oh yeah, you're on.
So Mark's left the comment, which is Craig David's song, 7 days, which is met a prospect on Monday, pitched hard on Tuesday, follow up on Wednesday, ignored on Thursday, ghosted on Friday, cried on Saturday, and questioned my life choices on Sunday. And that just shows that humor is sometimes very close to.
Yeah. But also it's a very powerful thing, and I do think that there's so much of this stuff that people absolutely know exactly how they need to behave. They know how they behave in real life. The idea that you would walk up to somebody and say, before you speak, Tim, let me run through my products and services with you. They'd never dream of saying that, and yet in the digital space, that seems to be
So a couple of things, Adam. One first thing is that it must be very difficult as humans. We have an inbuilt thing in our DNA to basically fit in. The fact that everybody wears jeans is a great example of, regardless of whether they're whatever the type of jeans and whether they got holes in or whatever, we wear them to fit in. And as soon as you see someone without jeans, who's that? But the fact is, the matter is that they've stood out and you've actually seen them. So that's an important thing. So quite often what happens, I think, is that we see all of this thing going on LinkedIn. Therefore, immediately, well, if everyone else is sharing this stuff, then that's exactly what we'll do. And of course, what happens is that you become part of the sameness and part of the noise rather than actually standing out. So question to you though, Adam, I'm just starting in my job in sales. And I don't have 20 years of working or whatever. I don't have, what have I got to talk about? I'm probably calling people up who probably know more than me. I may be calling people up in their 30s or 40s or 50s, and I'm in my 20s. What do I do? How can I stand out, and how can I be different?
Well, we had exactly this situation, didn't we, a few years ago with somebody where this was like their first job that they were in, and they asked exactly that question, and we said, you can't lie, because if you lie about something, people will see through the lie and they'll assume you lie about other things as well, i.e. whether your product's good, maybe. So you have to be honest about this. And so first of all, you have done loads of stuff. What was your first job? And this person, it was a guy, wasn't it? And he said, I was a nanny. I was working for a family who had a chalet in the Alps, and I was a nanny. Okay. So what did that teach you? Well, it didn't teach me anything, did it not? How about getting the kids to do things? Well, yeah. Is that not negotiation skills? Yeah. How about
putting them to bed?
Sorry?
Putting them to bed. So
yeah,
that was about meeting deadlines.
Absolutely. It was about scheduling stuff. It was about managing that project. Oh, yeah. And those skills that you learned, have you used those in your job? Yeah. So what else did you do? Well, I went traveling for a year. And what did you learn when I was you were traveling? Oh, I learned, this, and I learned about
that everybody is the same.
Yeah.
People are people, and
yeah, absolutely. So again, another important learning, a learning that because you learned it early, you'll carry this with you throughout your entire life. And this guy said, so what am I going to do when I'm actually talking to a prospect, when the prospect says, well, you've got no experience in this field? And we said to him that you can't run away from some of these things. You have to meet them head on. So you can either say, yeah, I actually have been working really hard learning this stuff, but it all sounds very shallow and a bit wishy-washy. Or you can say, you're right, you'd be my first ever client. And because of that, I will do whatever is required to make you successful. I will never forget you because you'll be my first client. And I will make sure that I will walk over hot coals to make sure that you get what you need out of this. Now, who wouldn't want to hear that as a buyer? So I think with all of these things, what we need to do is we need to frame it in such a way that the message that we're giving and the perception that we're giving is one of somebody who genuinely cares and is interested. And I remember many years ago, I was quite new to running a business, and I was in a networking group, and this like hyper successful guy came along to do a talk, and he said, there are 4 secrets to success that I always tell young people. And he said, they're really simple, but if you think about how important these things are, and amazingly, despite the fact they're so simple, uh, uh, if you do these, I can pretty much guarantee you'll be successful. So the first of them is be on time. And you go, yeah, because actually, if you can't turn up at the meeting on time, what chance have you got of delivering the project on time? And so be on time. The second one was smile. People want to deal with people that have got a happy disposition, and it's a joy to be spending time with them. Third, say please and thank you. It's amazing how many people don't. Now these 3 things are really easy things to do, but often we forget, or we assume it's implicit in what it is that we're doing.
And one of the things is that on LinkedIn, nobody says please and thank you. If you connect with somebody, no one turns around and says, thanks, Andy, for doing that. And so immediately, just by saying please and thank you, you stand out.
Yeah. And then the last thing, which is much more difficult, is always do what you say you're going to do. Which means that sometimes you have to say to a client, that's simply not possible to deliver that. But at least I'm telling you that now, rather than convincing you to buy it. And then, and this guy was living proof that these simple things were a big differentiator. And we know that in our own LinkedIn experience, don't we? When you interact with someone, there's an opportunity for you to do some stuff which requires little or no effort to do, that just makes you look a little bit better than everybody else. So if someone sends you a connection request or accepts your connection request, you send them a note saying, thank you for connecting. Not thank you for connecting, here's my products and services, just thank you for connecting. Because it's a tiny little difference to somebody that doesn't bother, but it is a difference nonetheless. If somebody leaves a comment on one of your posts, always respond to the comment, or at the very least like the comment, because you're rewarding somebody for doing something that's helped you. Like, if I hold the door open for you, as walking into a shopping centre, I go through the first door with you behind me, and I hold the door open. If you don't say thank you, the next door, which is 3 meters ahead of it, I'm just going to let it go in your face, because you've already demonstrated you don't see any value in that. So these things are really simple, but well worth doing. And yes, I spent 6 months crafting
Mark
that.
Harrington says, I spent 6 months crafting my personal brand on LinkedIn. Now even my wife introduces me as thought leader, but still won't buy what I'm selling.
You need some help with your pitching, I think, Mark. That's the answer. But joking aside, I think that the thing that people need to do, the one overarching thing on their profile on LinkedIn, or indeed any social network, is to be themselves. It is, at the end of the day, the only point of differentiation that we have from one another. And somehow we feel that in many instances that we're unworthy, or we're not impressive enough, or whatever it may be. And actually, if you are unworthy or not impressive enough, the client or prospect is going to find that out in the end. So they might as well find it out sooner rather than later. The key thing is, though, that you've got friends, you've got life partners, you've got people that would die for you. So what you're looking for is more people like that, more people that really love and appreciate the you. And the only way that you can use that as your USP and your real headline selling point is to be yourself.
And remember that on LinkedIn, it's a social network, and we're connected to people, we're not connected to companies. So remember that LinkedIn tell us that there's 1.2 billion people on LinkedIn. They don't tell us how many brands or how many companies are on there, because actually nobody cares.
Absolutely.
What we're bothered about is our network and who we are connected to, companies, brands. No.
So I guess we're at time. You've got a meeting at the top of the hour, haven't you, Tim?
I do.
So we probably need to wrap it up. So everybody in the audience, thank you so much. I hope that there have been some valuable takeaways from this. If there are any questions, obviously you can ping us because we're all friends on here. But yeah, thank you very much for your input, your insights and your funny comments, because they're what make this worth doing for us.
So this one was about your profile. Next week we're going to talk about network, and the week after that we're going to talk about content. The week after that we're going to have a break, and then the first week in September we're going to have a guest.
Yeah. So thank you all very much indeed. If you would like to join us, I always click the wrong one of these. Sorry about that. So if you would like to join us, scan the QR code. We would love to have you as a guest. For everyone in the audience, you've been great, as you always are. So thank you very much indeed. So until next time,
next
week, have a great weekend, everybody, and a very successful and fruitful next week until we see you again. So so long, and
bye, everybody.